To order the meeting of the Sebastian's Natural Resources Board for December 5th, 2017. Quite a crowd today. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have to say something real quick. Just before the roll call, this is the largest participation that we've had in about over a year at our meetings. Usually there's one or two and some other students that are environmentally connected with their school and the environment, and it's good to see this outcropping of folks here. May we have
Mr.
the
Chairman,
roll call, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on
Yes.
that note, these are the Indian River Charter School students attending their mandatory government meeting that they are required to attend every semester. So, welcome.
Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Jordan,
Present.
Gordian, Ms. Glazer. Here. Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Mosblick. Here. And Mr. Stadelman.
Here.
Chairman Clifton is excused from tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of our last meeting, November.
I motion we move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Well, we have a good topic now. Public input.
I'm
Anyone
sorry,
from the
Mr.
public?
Chair, could you
Yes.
please call the question about the meeting minutes? It was, oh goodness, seconded, and we need to call the vote.
All
for
in
the meeting
favor of
minutes.
The approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have public input. If anyone from the public would like to come up to the podium and right here. We usually limit our talks to about 2 minutes or so.
How much?
About 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes.
I can do 2 minutes. My name's Bob Brunel. I live at 541 Autumn Terrace. I'm just here to address a drainage problem. This has been ongoing for years. There's a culvert at the intersection of Quarry and Autumn Terrace that is not draining.
Excuse me, Robert. Lisa, is there a way to put that on the overhead? He may have a diagram. Thank you.
Right there? Okay, pardon me, Mike. Okay, good. This is the culvert right here. Okay, there's my house, and Mr. Flynn lives at 502 Quarry. And even today, okay, we did a quick measurement. The water is 13 inches deep at the culvert, okay? As we go one lot over, he has a buried pipe and underneath, he uses for a culvert. The water's 3 inches deep there. That's supposed to be lower than the culvert. So you can see there's 10 inches going the wrong way. I mean, it's a rough measurement, but, and also in the middle there, it's 7 inches deep. So it's about, halfway. And I know they drain the drainage canal, which I see helped these people in this area, but we have no, no help there. Our swales, we haven't been able to get in and clean our swales for almost a year. I've been in there the last week in boots on, all muddy, and I'm 64 years old. I have a bad back. I'm not even supposed to do this stuff, and I don't even know where to put the crap I'm digging out of there. But we don't mind cleaning our swales. We don't mind upkeeping something that's working. But this is all grown in. There are fish in there. I got an 8-inch eel today. I mean, it's crazy to see fish with little stripes out of them. So the water's been standing for quite some time, and we're also concerned about that standing water for over a year as a health hazard, because it does start to smell in the summertime. So I think it's something to be looked at. We'd like to, and I would like to get somebody to come out there with and take some new elevations, okay? And really, my crazy measurements are crude with a stick, okay? But it works.
Yeah, I'm Mike Flynn. The invert elevations themselves, we don't have datum, but if you're just looking at it like using a water level, the invert of the pipe at the junction is lower than where it should be flowing. So, it's simple physics. The water doesn't flow uphill. By gravity, when the water gets up maybe to an elevation of plus 12 inches, it might flow a little bit. But you still have ponding water at that location for at least a week. So, go ahead, Bob, sorry.
So it was just somebody to come out and look at it. I think they're gonna get a true picture of what's going on. And, like I said, it's very difficult for us to keep them clean.
Ms. Frazier, who can we address that to?
We have a newly formed stormwater department, and it would be Tim, correct? Tim or Phil. But what I'm going to request is that perhaps you either give me that or give me a copy of that, and so that we can go run out there and even look at it tomorrow, if that would be all right with you. The only thing I can say to you is that stormwater management is a very important issue here in the city of Sebastian. That's not an isolated incident that you are referring to, and the city manager takes it very seriously. It's just not an easy issue to fix. It's old and it has hair on it. That's all I can say. So, but we are addressing it because it is very important. So the manager has now set aside a separate group that is going to address stormwater and stormwater only.
Could you give me a time approximately when they'd come out there so we make sure
I
we're
really can't, but, I mean, it doesn't even have to be tomorrow, but it could be, I can give you my number and then you can call me.
sure.
How does that sound?
Okay, and, we've had people, people have looked at it before and didn't give us some good answers, almost insulting, like it was designed to do that.
One of the answers was that it was designed that way, and I'm saying, simple physics. If you find an engineer that designs water to go uphill, you find yourself a fraud.
They just want us to go away,
No.
But anyways, I'm sure if you guys could get out there, you'd be digging tonight.
Ms. Frazier, is there a way
Well,
that
it's no
Barbara
fun.
can throw a couple of those slides in?
If you'd like the slides now,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
I'll have Barbara, if you could put the PowerPoint slides up right now, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Under my culvert for my driveway, I know it got plugged, so I made this thing. I'm trying to push the dirt out and going crazy underneath it. Is there somebody, did they blow them out?
I'm not sure how they maintain those.
Somebody came by, working for the town, and I pulled him over yesterday. I was out there, and I asked him, I said, can you blow this out? He told me to get a high-pressure nozzle for my hose and try to push it out through there. I said, you don't have a machine that does that? He said, no. So I pointed to the culvert that's blocked. I said, so if that gets blocked, and Mr. Flynn and myself have a pond in our yard, we live with that, or do you blow that out? He says, I'll send the truck over later. Well, the truck never came.
And
So,
they do have the equipment.
that's the kind of.
Either on lease or they own it. One of the pieces of equipment is called a guzzler, the other is called a vector. And they're high-pressure jets, and they also have vacuum units. So they could be blowing it out and picking up the silt and sand on the other end with the vacuum. So it'd be a great maintenance project, and it could certainly use it. So, thank you.
But hey, you guys, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Barbara, can we hit the next slide, please? Thank you. This is the general area where these two gentlemen had just spoke about. This is the lateral swale that was recently dug out, and that gets dredged and it goes down towards Barber Street. The other ones where you see the grass growing in front of the tractor is the water that's standing there, and that's what's being held up, and that's holding everything back for at least 4 square blocks. And that's really detrimental because the standing water sits there. The tractor did come by and clean it last month, and they did a pretty good job, but the water that still remains inside the quarter rounds in front of the homes are still there. We can go to the next one, Barbara, thank you. This is standing water after a thunderstorm, not after the hurricane. And this is going down, down by the stop sign in the picture. You can see that's where the tractor was for the larger lateral swale. This is almost in front, this is actually in front of my house, my neighbor's house. The two gentlemen that just spoke are across the street. So that water sits there for at least a day and a half, 2 days, but within the property line, the water sits there for quite a while and continues to grow. Next slide, please. This is, I believe, Robert's attempt to clean his swale, and that's all the sand and growth, but that's on the opposite side of the street. Next slide, please. Again, there's the tractor. The adjacent house on the other side of Autumn Terrace in Quarry Lane. These folks are quite elderly. They cannot maintain their swale physically. And it just shows another growth there. Next slide, please. That's the other, that's Autumn Terrace again on another day. Next slide, please. This is after being cut. If you can look down where the quarter round swale would be, the grass is trimmed by our lawn maintenance people, but they cannot get down close enough to even get to it and remove the other stuff. Yes?
If you look at that, there is the pipe that has a 3-inch, the water's 3 inches there.
Excuse me, we need you to come to the podium, so
Is there another slide, Barbara? I can't remember. Okay, well, that's just to give you a quick, we understand we're not the only section of the neighborhood that has this problem, but it's pretty rough. That larger lateral swale grows tremendously fast. It needs to be below ground level, and then that section of Quarry Lane and Autumn Terrace is actually a high point. So everything runs down for several blocks, even off of Barber Street, and comes down. So we definitely will bring that to their attention when we need to. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Next on our list is old business, and we have an upcoming Earth Day event, and Rose will fill us in a little bit more on that, just a few minutes.
hi. Our Earth Day celebration is set for April 21st this coming year, and we have our plans coming together rather nicely. All of our bands from last year have agreed to play again, so our entertainment is set up. We have 21 vendors as of this afternoon already signed up for the event. And the last 2 years, we've been running around 55 to 60 vendors. So this far out, we already have a third of them signed up, ready to go. I followed up on the Natural Awakenings that you gave me from last month, and they will put a blurb in their magazine for us. So we will get that to them in February, and it will be in their March or April issue before the event anyway. And other than that, everybody has been emailed. All of our vendors from our list have personally been emailed one at a time. So daily I have 1 or 2 coming back in, so everything's looking good. I welcome any activities anyone has ideas for. We'll need volunteers to help out with the activities, and everything looks good. So just a short little brief this month. As we get into next year, it'll be a little bit more, but I'm happy with the outcome and pleased with everyone signing up so early.
All right, thank you, Rose. It is a fun day event. We hope more participants here in the city of Sebastian will come out on April 18th, 21st. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda. We have several roles with the Natural Resource Board, being members of the Natural Resources Board. One of them is we will partake in something going on with the oyster projects in the river. And perhaps Lisa can elaborate a little more on that.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. In fact, Mr. Chairman provided me with the contact information for Paul Giordano. Did I
Right.
get that correct? Good, thank you. And he graciously spoke to me about the existing oyster project that his son received his Eagle Scout medal or designation for. And his son has continued to monitor the growth of the oysters and was going to get back with me on that. But what I requested was that perhaps in January, at the January meeting, Mr. Giordano or his son come up and give us a presentation on the monitoring that has occurred and the results. In addition, I brought to his attention our future project at the Working Waterfronts, and we have recently received our final permit for that project. And he stated that the Boy Scouts would be very interested in assisting with that project also. So that was very good news, and I just wanted to share that with you all. In addition, we'll have to determine, it's my understanding the best time to place the oyster bags are when, at a certain point, the oysters float around. So I'm sorry, I'm not up on on oysters right now, but it's my understanding they should be placed at around March, April. That's the optimum time. You're all nodding your heads, so you know more than I. The question is, do you want to coordinate that with the Earth Day celebration, or would you like to do that? I mean, do you want to do it as part of the Earth Day celebration, or maybe a separate event? That's something for you all to digest and think about. Not necessarily have to answer it this evening, but I wanted to bring that to your
One
attention.
idea, if the Working Waterfront was to participate in the event and have a table and show the diagrams of the project, the site map.
We absolutely could at the Earth Day event, and then maybe have a volunteer sign-up sheet if we wanted to, and then hold it at a later date. I mean, that's a great idea.
Earth Day is April 21st, though, and we're going to lose our launch period if we wait too long.
Okay,
We want to do March, April.
that's true. I'll have to see if May is too late. When we have the presentation in January, I'm sure that they can give us a little bit more information about that. Okay.
Thank you. Has any of the board members have any suggestions for other guest speakers?
I was in contact recently with some Indian River County people who are involved in recycling. Wanted to bring to the attention the lack of commercial recycling here in Sebastian. I know we have a lot of riverfront restaurants and quite popular at night. They seem to generate a lot of bottles, and it seems like we should probably address that as a city. I think maybe go a little more green on that. I know even some of the bar owners have been recycling on their own and taking stuff home, so it seems like we should probably try to reach out to the community and get some kind of grassroots effort behind this.
I think we can do that and put it on our website.
Yeah.
We can work on that one.
I don't know, Ms. Fraser, if you're aware, or, being a newcomer, I'm not sure exactly how the process would go, but is there an official way to get some kind of a program started where restaurants are signing on to a kind of green initiative where they're doing things like using less styrofoam or no plastic bags or no straws or recycling, that sort of thing?
Ms. Fraser, I can fill a little bit in there.
Okay, thank you.
Part of the waste management contract had asked them to look into creating a commercial recycling program. It would be something that the businesses have to pay for. They did come up with a program with a tier of fees, and they did go out and promote it into the commercial businesses. So they do have to pay for it, but it is available to them, and they would get weekly pickup. It turned out there was a little hitch in the city's code in that dumpster bins have to be enclosed with a screen enclosure. And the businesses were coming back in going, that's gonna cost me another $2,000, $3,000 to get this bin into an enclosure. So City Council, we went back to City Council, and at least for the businesses along US 1 in the riverfront area, they are part of a CRA district. We have a facade, sign, and landscape grant, and we added to that grant that the city would pay for half the cost to get your dumpster enclosure if it was for commercial recycling. So we do have this little incentive, and there is a waste management program that can, that, again, for a cost, that will set the businesses up with a commercial recycling program. But how to incentivize them and get them to sign up for that and be willing to pay for that may be something that the board can come up with.
Is there information on that when that proposal went through, is there a package of information that we can get to take a look at and find out where it fell short, that sort of thing, and what the costs were? That'd be great.
Sure. We had also talked about something that can be brought up either at City Council and through Planning and Zoning Commission, that at least for new businesses, that we would require mandatory hookup, as I think, Mr. O'Neill, some of the information you gave, that some communities do require that the new site plans, when they go through the process to get their site plan approval, that they would have to be required to hook into that, to pay for that commercial recycling and get the dumpster right up front when the project was being built.
I mean, even if it were something that we could get the money from a grant to help the commercial property owners out, a lot of time it's the commercial property owner itself that is responsible for some of these changes, not the tenant. So, but that would be something to look into.
I went to that city council meeting, and I believe the fee was only like $50. It was very minor.
And it's up to $1,500.
15,
$1,500.
no, I mean just for the monthly fee.
Oh, I apologize, yes, for the waste management fee to pick up recycling,
And
yes.
some of the businesses were in here and complaining
Sure.
about that.
In the material that's in their package today is some information regarding from the American Restaurant Association and attitudes towards customers in regards to staying green. It's very interesting in terms of the marketing opportunities available to the restaurateur, and people typically will pay a little bit extra for that, so.
Great, thank you.
In
Excuse
addition
me,
to-
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So Mr. O'Neill had provided us with a woman, Stephanie Fonville, who's the Education and Marketing Coordinator for Indian River County. Is it the desire of this board that perhaps Mr. O'Neill reach out to Stephanie, or perhaps you have already, Mr. O'Neill, I'm not sure, and set her up as a speaker?
Yes, that would be one of our speakers for 2018, I believe, would be good.
Wonderful, thank you.
We can set a month, what's available for her.
Okay.
I'm also going to contact Marine Resource Council to see about their water quality checklist here in the Indian River in our section of Sebastian and Miko, as well as Vero Beach. I'll also try to contact Indian River Lagoon folks down in Port Pierce, and they come up every year and give us a little talk on the water quality as well, and how their oyster projects were doing. Any other suggestions for speakers? Rose, nothing? Okay. Okay. Well, I can adjourn this meeting of the Natural Resources Board, and I'd like to wish everyone in the city of Sebastian and all its neighbors a very happy Christmas and happy holidays.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you've already adjourned, but we had the item for the next agenda.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Members matter, staff matters.
Where do we go? Yeah. I think
Would
it
you
was-
mind opening the meeting again, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we just, would you like to continue with member matters, or would you like items?
Well, the other one I wanted to point out was the information on the city of South Miami, which is switched to organic landscaping. They were able to get I'd like to maybe not tonight, but let's talk about, I don't know, what kind of landscaping materials are we using here in the city of Sebastian now?
We encourage native landscaping. In fact, our landscaping code is pretty strenuous as far as encouraging native landscaping, or at least xeriscaping. On the Natural Resource Board website, it does encourage Florida-friendly landscaping, and it is something that the city has in their ordinances.
As far as the fertilizing is concerned, this is where, a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen seem to be the universal problem here. So I was curious as to what the city is using for fertilizers on the golf course and public lands.
I know that we use the same type of fertilizer and/or herbicides that are used by the state for their natural lands. I couldn't tell you the name, but I could get that for you if you'd like to look it up. Also, we do follow the fertilizer ban ordinance of the state, so we do not fertilize during certain periods of the year, which I
Yeah, as
believe
I
are during the
highlighted
rainy
on,
season.
I guess
Yes.
it's, well, I'm not sure which page it is, but the atrazine is, which has been banned in Europe. I was curious to find out if our fertilizers contain that material. I know some do, and the example in this from South Miami has banned that as well, and they went to all organic, and they've had no ill effects. Even their suppliers were happy to give them bids on the organic fertilizers and pesticides. So I thought that was something to bring to the attention. We can maybe bring it up again at another meeting after everybody's had a chance to look over this material.
If you go to the city website, all of our minutes are on there and available to you. And we did go over this pretty thoroughly last year.
Okay, I
I
wasn't here.
couldn't tell you
Okay.
which month it's been, but it has
Okay.
been, what,
Okay,
good
great.
6 months?
I'll take a look at that, yeah.
Other than what the city is doing already for the stormwater runoff and the swale issues, can the board request a full citywide survey of the current swale situation, or is that something already ongoing? Are they doing it piecemeal, or is it a citywide effort?
And that is a great question, and one that I have been asking for the last 3 months, so I apologize that I'm not all up on this yet. It is something that's high on my radar. We have conducted stormwater master plans, and they do show where all of our drainage is and all of the swales in the city and what's being maintained and what basins are, what's flowing into what. Whether it's concise or complete, that is something I'm not sure of because I haven't had that opportunity to study it. You, as a board, absolutely could ask for any type of study that you would like to see. And if there's a cost to it, of course, if we have to outsource it or if there's a cost, we'll have to bring it up to the city council. But, the city council is always
Is that something I can
favorable.
bring up for meeting in our next meeting? Because I know I can't do it today, it's not on the agenda, but is that something we can actually vote on to address to the city? Or is that something I can make a motion for?
I believe so, yes, sir. You are a recommending board, so you can recommend whatever you would like the
reason
city
is
to
because
look
it seems
at
like
and
there's
to really
been
address.
so much construction done. When I go out and look at these areas, because other people have brought up those concerns too, and the construction has just raised the height of the houses and basically covered up swales where the water was running off to. Either that or it's just been maliciously done. But a full survey of where we're at would at least give us a standing of what needs to be done and gives us some place to go.
And it also depends, sir, on what you mean by survey. If you're talking, elevations, we're getting
Elevations,
fairly costly
everything.
here.
Yeah. Well, I'm really talking about maybe doing a LiDAR survey.
We absolutely have that information.
Oh, good. I'd like to know if we can talk about that during our next meeting. What's the procedure for that?
How would
Put it
we
on
get
the
to see
minutes.
the master plan? That would be, not that I'm an engineer and
You would
could
have to
probably
ask the
read
city, yeah.
most of it. Can we get a copy of that?
Yes, sir, it should be on the city website, in the Laserfiche, and if it is not, I would be happy to supply that to you. I know Mr. Clifton has come in, and I have supplied that for him. It is all a matter of public record. And again, let me emphasize that this is not an easy fix, and the city is very much aware that this is an issue and one of the top priorities of this city. But again, stormwater, there's three things with stormwater: moving it, treating it, and storing it. And we store it for flood purposes. We move it because of flood purposes. Excuse me. But then we also have to be sure that it's being treated. Unfortunately, the way that the city has developed, instead of putting in curb and gutter, correct, with underground piping, the city developed with swales in everyone's front yard within their property line. So it is imperative that the private property owner cleans out the swales and maintains the elevation of the swales. And that obviously is not something that is 100% doable, especially with an older population. And so if you only have 20% of the people maintaining their private swales on their property and 80% not, you're going to get the blockage, you're going to get the backup that we see repeatedly. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not city-maintained ditches or systems that we need to address also. I'm not exempting the city here, but that's how Sebastian has been developed. And so it's not an easy fix. You can't go onto somebody's property and do work for them and yet not the next person. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it has to be all or nothing, and I think that's what the city is struggling with.
Can I put that on minutes for the
We can
next
put
meeting?
that on the minutes for next meeting.
That would be good. At least get us started to where we have to go.
Lisa, the city did have someone, I'm not sure if it's city or county, cleaning those quarter rounds a year or two ago. And was that project abandoned, if you know? I mean, I know you're here several months now, so.
Well, stormwater is my
Past
passion. I know
history.
people think that's silly when I say that, but it is, because it's, green infrastructure is very important to all three of those components of stormwater that I mentioned: storage, movement, and water quality. Quarter round is for those that may not know, and it is in our master plan. The city, I don't know how long ago they started the project, but we're no longer doing it. It was a process of putting in clay, I think, little quarter rounds in the bottom of everyone's swale in order to move water. Unfortunately, you have to maintain the swale still and not let it overgrow, and the quarter round pipes would pop up and block flow, and the swales would continue to get overgrown. And so that blockage was continuing. And really, it's a point of maintenance, and it's intensive maintenance that needs to occur. So it's not simple. That's all I can
It
say.
may be something we could tie in overall with the St. John's Water Management District and the New River Estuary people. And it's a lot of money, but it could involve everyone, including state, federal, local. Maybe we can get funds from all three.
And I've thought of that, and thank you for bringing it up, but there are dollars that are available to do some of these green infrastructure studies. And so I was hoping to hit some of those dollars. One is the DEO does a community planning grant, technical grant, and it comes out in somewhere in March, April, May period. And then you submit for it, and they will help you do this planning grant and an overall study, as you're indicating, Mr. Stadelman.
The stormwater issue I have noticed lately, just driving around my neighborhood. I live in the oldest part of Sebastian, so I tend to not have issues. Does the city believe that this might be something that is a trend that's going to continue, or is this, could this be linked to, excessive rainstorms, climate change, that kind of thing, where we're looking at a long-term trend in this direction, or are we just not maintaining the current system? And I know that's a big question, so I'm not, yeah. No, I understand. I'm just, is there any inkling of what we think might be the the kind of underlying cause here?
I really wouldn't want to even answer that question at this point because it would be an uneducated guess, but really, everything you just said is probably correct
Yeah.
on both levels.
I mean, have like updated flood maps and, all of that. I mean,
We do have that.
okay.
FEMA
Okay.
just issued new flood maps,
Okay.
and we are comparing them with our old maps. They really didn't change very much in the city, correct, Dory? They did not change very much in the city, which is good news.
Well, I would think if there's nothing further, I think we can adjourn.
Oh, I
Not
don't
yet.
think we can.
Go ahead, go.
Well, the other thing is, I was, again, with the model of South Miami there, they're requiring new homes to have solar installations when they're built. And I was interested in finding out what the panel's opinion of that would be.
I work with the Florida Solar Energy Center as a technical specialist, and that program down there is very controversial. It's mostly going to benefit the new homeowners building new homes, but it did add a substantial cost, which I would prefer people do it in the new home process, but it was very substantial. And you also have to look at what the overall trends are with solar, including the solar farms, energy management systems that are going into houses, as well as other green energy such as hydrogen storage systems, or there's a lot of things coming down the line. A standard solar system on somebody's house usually runs about $20,000 to $40,000, of which there's a federal tax credit, and that's it. That's all that's left. And then you net meter that electricity back to FP&L. And depending on what your position is on that trend, either a large farm, solar farm, with the management of that solar being done by a third party may be a more feasible way than putting solar systems on everybody's house. You really have to look at what their goals are, how the houses have been built over the years, what the affluence of that neighborhood is, basically how much money do they have to spend on these systems. And FPL's position was, during that last election that we had, their position was, if I'm subsidizing you for $20,000, then the other guy should also get his $20,000 subsidy. Even though they lost, that was their position, to try to kill them from buying any of the net metered energy. So they really are going to have to look at that going in the future. And I did a lot of work down there with Miami-Dade with their solar projects. And it's an ongoing thing. A lot of people love solar. My personal views on it, I would prefer large solar farms and have it distributed to energy management systems in everybody's house, because I can't do a perfect installation. With that being said, I've installed hundreds of solar systems on residential houses. But it's really have to look at that. And they took a vote, and they're going to put it on all new houses. So
It's a very green thing to do. I mean, obviously, the expense, everything comes down to money, but it was interesting that they've seemed to, from what I read, of course, it seemed to be very popular, so.
solar hot water is your number one. Solar hot water, it's the best thing you can do. The photovoltaic panels the technology's changing as we speak. When I first started in the solar business, I sold the systems for $7 to $8 per kilowatt. That price is down to about $3. And I've been doing it since 1998, and that's how quickly it's dropped. It's going to drop again here in the next few years with this new technologies coming out, new ways of making solar panels. And plus, then your government is going into your business on how you should use your electricity, what you should put on your house. There was a lot of backlash from that as well. Plus, you're forcing the builders to put on a product that maybe not everybody wants, because it is another system that needs to be maintained and serviced. Also, your solar panels do have a lifetime of about 20 years, and that's in perfect conditions, not mentioning any type of storms or other damage that may occur along the way. But people love them when they're on their house, but it has to be done a certain way and in certain guidelines. And, you know, it's a story for another day.
Thank you.
Any staff matters?
Is there staff matters? Do we have any staff matters?
Well, the only thing that I had on your agenda, if you'll go to item 9, is that our meetings are the first Tuesday of the month, which would be January 2nd. So with your consideration, I am recommending that this board changes their meeting date to January 9th, the second Tuesday, just for January. If that's okay, I will need a motion and a second and a vote.
I'll motion
Favor of
that.
motion?
I'll second that.
Aye.
January 9th.
We ain't gonna be feeling too good on the second, is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I think.
I imagine we're good to adjourn, Lisa?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Right, Natural Resource Board is now adjourned.
Hey,